Welcome to Spotlight on Nonprofits, sponsored by NJM Insurance. I'm your host, Peter Crowley, and today we've got a very special guest, a partner I've known for a long time, Sandra Toussaint, who is the CEO of the United Way of Greater Mercer County.
That's correct.
I got it right. Sandra, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so great to see you again. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I think our audience is going to learn a lot about what goes on at the United Way and what you've done in Greater Mercer. So to start off, give me a history. I know in 1994, they combined to become one United Way of Greater Mercer County. I know you're part of the National Association, but tell us about what has happened with United Way.
Sure. So as background, United Way, I want to say, is over 130 years old. So you can think of the organization as a global nonprofit. Each organization operates independently from each other. It's really like the franchise model, right, when it comes to nonprofits. So you have United Way in Toronto and Paris, Los Angeles, New York City, and of course I'm the CEO here in the Greater Mercer County area. Each United Way or each local affiliate operates independently from each other, does its own fundraising, has its own board, its own 501c3, and so forth. What makes the United Way model so unique and so successful is each United Way is around just to really respond to community needs. What are the community issues? So what Chicago is dealing with may be certainly different from what Greater Mercer County area is dealing with, right? And so we respond differently. Here in the Mercer County area, we've been servicing the community for over 80 years. And to your point, we started with two local United Ways, so Delaware Valley and the Princeton Area United Way, merge. And that's how you have United Way of Greater Mercer County.
So everybody has this question I'm going to ask you. You've gone through a tremendous pandemic time. You had to look at your model, potentially change the model. How have you adjusted to the new sort of post-pandemic world, and how did you do during COVID?
Well, thankfully, myself and the United Way staff team were all healthy and safe. As far as our response during the pandemic, really, we recognize two things. One is we need to be much more accessible, right? And so for us, being accessible is incorporating technology in our work. So that's one. So we're still operating in a hybrid model. Two is what we saw is we were getting calls from individuals and families who never had to access social services, right? And so during the height of the pandemic, there was families, certainly employees who were furloughed, laid off, and so forth, right? And so once you're hit with that, what do? All these thoughts start going into your head. How am I going to support my family? How am I going to get food? How am I going to survive? So a new thing came out of it for us. Certainly is how do we help individuals and families navigate the social service arena, which is something new. We were getting calls from individuals saying, the government, I heard they're giving out stimulus check. How can I get my $1,400? I just lost my job. What do I do? So this is something that we continue to help with. So we have staff members, resource specialists, and that's really what they do. Not only help for those who are newly unemployed, but helping them access these social services.
So you talk about working families. I know that's the focus of what you do. What are the key priorities that United Way of Greater Mercer County has now? Your key priorities?
Well, for us, everything that we do is centered around access and equity, right? And so we look at health equity. We look at financial equity and certainly educational equity. So the priorities for us is what can we do as an organization to break down barriers, right, for working families, marginalized populations, and so forth to access resources so they can achieve quality education, have health insurance, have access to health care, and certainly financial stability and mobility. It's interesting that you asked me that question because not too long ago, I remember there was an article that I read, I think it came out in 2019 with the New York Times, really talked about that the average American, do they have $400 saved up for unexpected expense, right? And looking at that article and where we are today, I'm saying this is what our United Way should be focusing on, right? How do we help families and individuals boost their discretionary income? So when life happens, whether it's a flat tire, your water heater burst, or other life instances and things of that nature, you have $400 and then some.
Wow, what a good way of looking at it. You mentioned some of the programs. I'm going to jump in on two of them. Your youth programs. It's such an important part of the family structure. How do you handle youth, or how do you address the youth programs that United Way does in this marketplace?
So for youth, we focus on education, specifically around FAFSA, right, and college readiness. So for us, I always say, getting to college is one thing, and then trying to figure out how to pay to college is another, right? And so what can we do to help individuals access college, to make their dream come to reality, right? And so our staff team, we work with a number of volunteers, sit down with families one-on-one and help you actually complete your financial aid form, right? Which you need that for scholarships and for governmental assistance and so forth. Then we take that a step further. We also sit with you one-on-one, right? Your college essay writing. We know that getting into college is very competitive, right? So how do you create an essay? There's so many drafts that you have to go through, right? So it sets yourself apart. So we do that. And then what's new, so we've added to this piece, is the whole notion of mock interviews, right? For colleges, you need certain scholarships. You need an interview. For fellowships, that you need interviews, or internships that you need interviews. So, because of United Way, our structure and our relationships with various sectors in the community, we're recruiting for mentors, particularly in the business arena, to sit with families, to sit with prospective college students or current college students to help them navigate and go through the interview process.
Well, that's so important too, because the interview process, and nowadays, I don't know, I haven't applied to colleges in a long time, but it was always in person. Now you have, I would assume, more phone interviews or Zoom interviews.
It's all of the above, right?
Okay.
And so again, how do you set yourself apart? And for us, going back to what I said, everything is centered around access and equity.
Right.
Not everybody has the resources to do
Well,
that.
that's a question I was
right?
going to ask you, right?
So the services that we provide, if they were to go to like a firm, there's a number of consultants or financial organizations that help with that. The average cost is around $1,400.
Wow.
To figure out what are your top 10 schools, what's your chances that you're going to get in, what's the algorithm and things of that nature. For us, we're offering it for free.
And do you work with the high schools, I assume, to help their students, to let the students know that that service is available through?
So we work with high schools. We also work with community organizations. For example, we work with the Boys and Girls Club
Right,
of
okay.
Mercer
That's
County,
what I was thinking
right?
of.
So we work with them. We also work with Mill Hill, another organization. So we go through it to a number of ways. We also do free workshops at public libraries. A few weeks ago, we were at the Heightstown Public Library, right? And this was open to the public. We did social media announcements and things of that nature for students who were unaffiliated with organizations or just didn't hear about it through their high school or their counselor to come participate.
That's great. So I want to jump to another topic on where you've had great success, and that's your Strike Out Hunger program. I know for a fact, I've seen you down in Trenton in the arena with everybody packing food. Tell me about that program and how impactful it's been.
Sure. Strike Out Hunger, I think this year will be the 9th annual. Really just started out as a community-wide meal packing event. It's to galvanize the community to get food out, right? And so in looking at that, so yes, the program has grown in terms of the amount of meals that have packed and community members that actually take time out of their day and volunteer and actually help deliver the food. But for us, we wanted to go deeper, right? So it's not just about packaged meals, it's about fresh produce. How do we get fresh produce into the hands of families? Trenton is one of the areas that has been designated as having a food desert. It is a food desert. So how do we get fresh produce into the community? So we've beefed up Strike Out Hunger, if I could use that word, right? And so we went from meal packing event to having partnerships with local farms. We have a new partnerships with a hydronic farm, Geo Greens, right? And just to make fresh produce available. The other thing that we're included in Strike Out Hunger is the advocacy piece, right? Why is this work important? We saw that during the height of the pandemic, right? Access to food. A number of charities stepped up and started providing pantries, doing drop-offs and pickup and things of that nature. The need was great before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and certainly now. And so we're seeing now more than ever initiatives like Strike Out Hunger, like ours, is certainly needed, and that's why we've seen the growth.
Well, I think your point that people who normally wouldn't have access to services due to the pandemic, due to the issues, have access, need access now. Now, the one thing I do remember, though, is you make Strike Out Hunger a fun event.
Yeah.
You had different teams, you had different T-shirts. I haven't seen the event in a couple of years. Is that still part of the goal of what it is to have fun?
It is to have fun. I mean, we're doing a good thing. We're coming together. The community's coming together, right? We're addressing a problem. It should be fun, right? It's doing good work, but also you want to have fun in the process. It's a perfect event to bring family. I always say, you know, it's great for kids to be introduced to volunteering early and giving back early. So Strike Out Hunger is definitely one of the vehicles I encourage all to get involved in.
Yeah, and I think you've done a phenomenal job with Strike Out Hunger, and the impact's been really big. I want to just talk on one more topic, and that's your health initiatives, because working families need a lot of work, a lot of support, but health is important. I know you guys have done some work on that. Can you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. Again, I keep going back to equity and access, right? So when we're talking about our work in health, we look at health insurance. And so we assist individuals with health insurance. Certainly, November 1st kicked off open enrollment, so we could provide assistance there. We help individuals and families navigate whether it's through Medicaid, Medicare, Marketplace. The other initiative that we have is discounted prescription services, right? So regardless if you have health insurance, because of the nature of our work and who we have relationships with, you can certainly contact us. We can, and there's information on our website and so forth, how you can access discounted prescription services. We're also looking at mental health. Mental health, we see, was definitely needed during the height of the pandemic, right? That's something that's a big issue in the forefront of so many individuals and organizations. So what we're looking at in terms of how do we bring equity into mental health, right? Making sure that the individuals and families, working families, marginalized group have access to resources. So there's a lot of things that we're doing around health. And for us, health is mental health, social, emotional, physical health, you name it.
So you really expanded a lot in how you bring services to the individuals. I would assume that means you work well with a lot of other organizations or partnerships. You want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's really something you've done a great job with, is bringing in new partners into the United Way.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do coming in as CEO, recognizing that these issues are big. These community issues. It's going to take more than one organization and really more than one entity, right? If we want to see some traction, if we want to see some movement, you hear that cliche, moving the needle, right? And so United Way can't do it alone. So we need partners, right? And so the partners for us are other community organizations, both large and small, right? Grassroots organization, certainly corporations, government folks, academic institutions. And so we all have a vested interest in partnering and working together to build a thriving community. When you have a thriving community, everybody wins, right? And so this is something that I continue to spearhead for the organization.
We'll talk a little more about that going forward, but right now we're going to take a quick break. We thank NJM Insurance for the sponsorship, and we thank our guest, Sandra Toussaint. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Spotlight on Nonprofits. My guest, Sandra Toussaint, CEO of the Greater Mercer. It's Greater Mercer.
Greater Mercer County.
Greater Mercer County. United Way of Greater Mercer County. I'm going to start off with a tougher question, and that's funding. We're in nonprofits, and I know funding is so challenging. Can you give us how does the United Way of Greater Mercer County go after their funding? How do you address the funding question? All nonprofits struggle with this.
Sure. So because our business model has changed to be much more impactful on the ground, funding is a challenge for us, right? At the end of the day, I'm a big believer is you have to make the case. And you have to show impact. And then it comes down to relationships, right? And so this is something that I've been working on since I've been at United Way. Why do we exist? What's the value proposition? If you're going to support us, right, what are you getting out of it, right? Making it more of a relationship, making it more of a partnership so that you know your dollar is being invested and used in a way that's effective and certainly efficient. So for us, diversification is key. Again, our business model has changed. We're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. We're going after a number of sources of revenue support. And that's really how you run a business. We are a nonprofit, but we are a business, right? And so you can't put your eggs all in one basket. So there's different ways that we ask for financial support, and we're so grateful for what we're getting.
And you do not, or you do get funding from the national organization? I think you said you do not.
We do not get funding from the national.
Do you have to give them a part of what you raise?
So yes. And so this is where the franchise model comes in, right? So when you're thinking of franchising. So in terms of the relationship with this local United Way and the national organization, we get to leverage the brand. So that helps in terms of door openers for these large corporations or large businesses, right? And then we certainly get some assistance in terms of marketing support. So we don't always have to reinvent the wheel, and there's opportunities to share best practices or lessons learned. But all the dollars that we raise stays here in the Mercer County area. So why it's the greater Mercer is because not only do we do Mercer County, but we're certainly in parts of Middlesex County and Somerset County.
So being a CEO of a nonprofit is not an easy job. You make it sound easy, but it's not. I guess, give me the biggest challenge. You've been there now almost 8 years. One or two of the bigger challenges that you had to take on to be successful.
Well, coming in, I wasn't from the community. So inserting myself in the community, introducing myself, and this is something that I continue to do. We all know this, listening tours, right? So that's one of the ways that you do that. But I really wanted to have ongoing conversations. And for me, going back to the question earlier, it's about partnerships, right? And so it's not one and done. And so introducing myself into the community, developing those partnerships, letting you know what's going on, making myself accessible to the community. So if you have a problem, if you have an issue, if there are concerns, you can certainly contact me. I'm big on feedback. So everyone I talk to, I'm always like, what can we improve on? How can we do better? The other thing is, as you mentioned, some of my challenges. You name it, you're walking into a situation, there are challenges from A to Z, right? Yeah. But those challenges create opportunities. And walking in, I had the 3 R's: refocus, reconnect, and reimagine. And this was my mantra when I first started 8 years ago, and certainly it's my mantra today.
So talk about your personal success, something that you feel that because of your expertise and your skills, you've been able to really grow United Way in Mercer County.
Well, my personal success, I tell you, I feel really good when I'm out in the community. And for us, we define community, the larger base. It could be the business community, it can be individual and families who need support, right? I'd like to see myself in all different aspects of the community. But when I'm out in the community and somebody says, you know, you've done a great job. Thank you. United Way is different. So that's personal success for me, personal success, excuse me. And really all the hard work, all the sleepless nights, all the, oh my goodness, what am I going to do, really paid off, right? And so yes, it was climbing an uphill battle, but we've climbed, we went over, we've jumped, right? And now this is like the next phase. Jokingly, I say it with my team, you know, now we're approaching United Way 3.0 or 4.0, right? Because we have to constantly change to be responsive to the community. So it's so important for me and members of my team to have an ear to the ground. What's happening? What are the issues? Who's new to the community? What are they seeing, right? And how does what's happening in Mercer County impact the state? And so I'm actually also having conversation with other United Ways and other entities throughout the state to see how can we partner. It's not just about Mercer County, because there are some issues here, but there are the same issues in other locales, right? And so we could create a movement to really make a dent in some of these challenges.
So we're going to pivot a second here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about you. What were you said you came new to the community. What were your experiences? What did you do before you came here?
So I'm originally from New York City. My background, interestingly enough, I don't come from the nonprofit sector. I started out in insurance, doing business development or marketing. Okay. But my family always instilled in me the importance of giving back. So if you have means, if you were blessed, certainly give back with your time, your talent, and your treasures. And this was something that I value and I continue to do. And because of that, I've made the segue into the nonprofit sector, and in particular here at United Way. So it's been a good ride. I'm still having fun. I think fun should definitely be a part of it, right? And so the success that we're having, the community is certainly having that success as well.
So you left, your role at United Way was from the profit industry, that was your first nonprofit experience?
No, actually. So I've always volunteered and then moved out, originally from New York City, moved out to the Jersey area, Central Jersey, and was commuting into New York City. And so one day I was just like, you know what? I can't take this commute anymore.
Good luck in the commute. Oh,
my goodness.
Deadly.
And then that's how I landed at United Way. So United Way is actually my third nonprofit. And I worked in nonprofits in New York City. But one thing that I recognize is the skill set that I had are transferable skills. Again, nonprofits are businesses, right?
Yep.
And so we all need marketing, we all need business development, we all need sales, and we all need operations. And that was my background, for-profit, easy transition into the nonprofit sector.
And I'll throw in leadership.
And
because
leadership
I do know
as well.
you've done a tremendous job in the leadership side. Being a CEO of a nonprofit, you're right, you've got to have fun with it, you've got to enjoy it, but it's also a personal experience. Can you tell me some of the times in your 8 years down here that have been personal for you, that you say, well, I really remember, that was something I remember I liked?
Sure. So I'm going to answer that question with a little bit more about me. So I am first generation American. And I could remember some of the challenges that my family had in terms of accessing resources. And bringing it back to United Way here is when I am with a family and they're able to access resources, I'm just like, man, that's wonderful, right? Because they don't have to worry about taking the day off of work and going to this building here and going to that building there, or trying to figure out what applications do I need to fill out. We want to be the one-stop shop, or partner with organizations to make that process easy for you. And when I see families or individuals that are struggling are walking or leaving our office or our partner organizations with a smile, then I know I'm successful and doing good, and the work that we're doing is certainly having an impact. So it makes me feel good.
That's important, it really is. I know how much time you put into the job. So you mentioned earlier that technology has changed what you do. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think technology can be both a supportive aspect of what you do, but it can be a difficult aspect also. It's costly to put the technology in, and the people you deal with may not always understand the technology. So how has technology changed what you do?
Sure. So I'll give you an example. One of our services that we provide to the community is free tax preparation services, right? And so you can go through a number of sites throughout the county and get your taxes done for free. And this is something that we did always in person. Because of the pandemic, now we had to do hybrid. So now there are opportunities that if you're comfortable, you can do your taxes yourself, or you can get assistance doing taxes electronically. The other thing in terms of accessing benefits, federal benefits, state benefits, community benefits, and so forth. We have individuals that can help you in person as well as over the phone, certainly via email, and we needed to beef up our technology to do that. At the end of the day, regardless of what forum, whether it's in person, via phone, or with technology, it still goes. It still comes down to the individual one-to-one interaction, one-to-one connection. And so this is what we're seeing for the population that we service. They want to know that they're talking to a trusted source, right? Somebody who has their best interests at heart, somebody who can show them empathy. And it starts with me, and this is something that I try to demonstrate in everything that I do.
Do you find that the younger individuals and the families you work with are much more attuned to working technology than, let's say, your traditional older family group?
Yes, but you know what's interesting? Everybody has a smartphone. But when it comes to accessing services, not everyone's comfortable with a smartphone. We have a partnership when we're talking about technology with Trenton Digital Initiative, TDI, right? And so that partnership allows us to work together to get computers into the hands of families, into the hands of students who need it the most. And it's not just about commuters. Comcast is actually a part of that partnership, right, with Internet Essentials. So they have discounted or much more affordable pricing when it comes to internet services. Again, recognizing that access and equity go hand in hand, and so technology certainly plays a part in it.
So having been on both sides of profit, nonprofit, nonprofit seems to me to always be more of a life-changing experience. How do you balance your personal life with the demands of your job?
I'm going to be honest, it's a challenge. But
if you didn't say that, I was going to be concerned.
Oh no, it is a challenge, but I love what I do. I'm having fun. And I have a family, a supportive structure, right? And so my son keeps me grounded. I have to tell you, my son is 13 going on 30, and certainly he's one of those. He lights up knowing that, oh, my mom, she doesn't only get up early to go into the office. She's actually out in schools. She's actually out in meetings. She's actually out in pantries and so forth. And so he's so proud to talk about me, to talk about the organization and what I do. And that helps to keep me going. That helps me to be balanced. And certainly we saw the importance of self-care. And this is something I'm a big believer on. Taking that time may not be a whole day or a whole week, but even if it's 10, 15 minutes a day, just to kind of decompress, certainly that's helpful. Then you come back energized with new ideas, right? When we're talking about innovation, you can do that.
Sure.
When you give yourself the permission to do that.
Well, I can see why he's proud of his mom. So I think we're coming to the end of our show, and Sandra, the website's up on the screen as we talk. Can you let people know how they can either volunteer or help provide some financial support to United Way?
Sure. Please access our website, uwgmc.org. Certainly you can email our office, info@uwgmc.org as well, or you could call us. There will be somebody always there to pick up the phone, or you can leave a voicemail message. We certainly appreciate you volunteering, accessing information, and help spread the word. That is so important as well.
So thank you, Sandra Toussaint, CEO of United Way of Greater Mercer County. It's been great talking to you.
Likewise.
Thanks,
it's great seeing you.
Good seeing you too. See you again next time on Spotlight on Nonprofit.